Welcome. I'm so excited to be back with you and share a little bit more since that first solo episode where I was really talking about why all within exist. And today I'm so excited to share with you what I believe is actually possible when it comes to healing, because I think that it's a very charged word. Oftentimes there's this feeling of if I have to heal something, then there's this whole thing that's going to happen to me. There's almost this feeling or this thought or perception of it's going to be hard. And maybe you don't want to do hard. Maybe you've already done hard before. And I'm not going to lie to you and say sometimes that healing isn't going to require you to step out of your comfort zone or see things about yourself that you haven't seen before. But I really want to paint a picture of all the incredible possibilities that are available to you when you decide to embark on a healing journey. I know that healing can feel like a very vulnerable thing. If you're dealing with something in your life, whether it's emotionally or physically, maybe you've been suffering with it for a while. I know people that have physical issues, like back issues. My dad, oh my gosh, my dad had back issues for his whole life. He's a tennis pro. And the guy does all these things. And I always feel so bad for him because I know it really is challenging in his life. And he's learned to live with it, but it's still there. So there's all different types of experiences that can create vulnerability for you when it comes to the thought of healing. And I want to clarify that this isn't about me just talking about miracles, or this is not about trying to fix everything. This is really about what can change with the right support and the right perspective that can allow you to understand that when you view healing as an opportunity to come into your wholeness, it's an expansion within itself. I want you to know a little bit when it comes to my healing journey. I think it's important because I'm going to be the host of the show, and lucky me, and I'm not always going to have the opportunity because I'm going to be really listening to other people's healing journey. But I want you to understand, besides me being a healer and doing thousands of sessions with clients and really channeling and working with them. If you're curious, by the way, what channeling is when you are able to change your brainwave state and get in a deeper state like alpha or theta and access information that isn't always available to you. And when you start to access those brainwave states and you tune into somebody, you receive information. So that's a whole nother time and story, but that's essentially what I was doing, and with the intention of healing. So not only am I adept and an expert at doing that because of how many hours and sessions I've done over 25 years, but I worked with people to help them transform their lives with actual containers that were like 6 months long, 12 months long, ran different programs. So I've seen a lot, but that's me working, okay? I want to make a distinction. That is me stepping into the role of being a healer. But I'm also a human being that has had to have my own experience with healing myself. And I want to share about that because it's important for you to know that I don't just come to you sitting on this one side of the table. I'm also sitting with you as a listener. If you're somebody that is experiencing some suffering physically, mentally, emotionally, or energetically, I've been there. So the way it really began for me was in my early 30s. If you saw my life on paper, it looked like it was just rocking, okay? I definitely had a lot going for me. I was in pharmaceutical sales. I beat out 100 people to get the job that I had as a specialty rep in San Diego, selling to dermatologists and OBGYNs. And I quickly, within the first year of being there, became the number one sales rep in my division, and I was in the top 10% for years. I was a sales trainer. If you know anything about that industry, I was making incredible money. I was also getting a little bit brainwashed. And I'll share with you what that looked like. But I really started to believe that a pill could fix everything. When I said in the last episode, we got to get to the roots, I didn't even know what that meant. At that time, at the person I was, at the consciousness I was back then, I didn't even understand that I was more into instant gratification. I was like, hey, you tell me what you can give me right now that is going to make me feel good. And the way that that showed up was I was living this life, doing that job. I was investing in real estate. I had 3 different properties. I was married at that time, since divorced to him, but married at that time. I was traveling the world. I had everything right at my fingertips. I was healthy, but behind closed doors, I was absolutely miserable, living a life that was so out of alignment. I look back and it's cringeworthy, okay? It is cringeworthy. But my belief is we all get to look back at ourselves and have compassion for the level that we were operating at then. And so I have so much compassion for her. But because I was so out of alignment, because I was so stressed out with maintaining, keeping up with the Joneses and making all this money and being one of the top reps and all that kind of stuff, I was starting to get debilitating migraines. I had anxiety that I didn't even know that what it was, but it was anxiety. And I had terrible stomach aches. Oh my gosh, like couldn't function. So I went to my doctor. I found one of my doctors in my territory. Her name was Dr. Gray. And she was an integrative doctor. And I asked her, I told her what was going on. I said, I'm suffering with all these things. Can you please give me something? Give me a pill to take this pain away. Have you been there before, listener? Have you felt that in your life where you're like, God, I'd do anything for this to go away? Where you just want to feel differently. And I was very naive at that time. I didn't realize that there was a root to the problem. And so my doctor kind of ribbed me a little bit. And she was like, how old are you? And I think she was really curious because she's like, you look pretty young. When I was in my 30s, I looked like I was in my 20s. And I was telling her, I'm 30. And she's like, oh, okay. So like put her hands up, kind of exasperated. She's like, Dawn, seriously, I need you to try 5 things before I will have a conversation with you about medication. I said, okay, what do you want me to try? All bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And she said, I want you to try massage, acupuncture, chiropractic. I want you to change your diet, and I want you to get to the gym. And I want you to do that for the next 6 months. And if nothing changes, come back to me and we'll talk. Okay. Seemed easy enough. And at that time, my husband and I had incredible insurance. Incredible. So I could get massages. I could get all those things. And so my back doesn't seem out of alignment. I don't need to go to a chiropractor. I chose to see an acupuncturist. And I got a recommendation for one. And I saw her, and it was life-changing, you guys. Oh, my goodness. I could not believe this experience. I look back, and that was unexplainable in some ways. So she did an intake, a consult for me, as any good healer will do, right? And she was asking me what was wrong with me. And at the time, my migraines were the thing that stood out the most to me. It was the most outstanding issue I was dealing with. And so I was like, my migraines. And so she put me on a table, had me lay down, and she did this body scan. So if you're listening and you can't see me, I'm literally, my hands are on a desk right now, and I'm kind of scanning the desk. Okay, this is what she was doing, but it was my body. And then she was scanning, and then she got to my stomach, and she stopped. And she wouldn't move past my stomach. And she's like, oh. And I was, wait, what's that? Moan or sigh for. And she said, ooh, you don't seem very happy with your work. You seem very imbalanced. Are you stressed at your job? And I thought to myself, how in the heck does she know this? I didn't tell her I was having issues at work. And I said, well, actually, yes, I'm incredibly stressed with my work. I have a lot of demands of keeping my sales numbers up, and sometimes I feel like I can't do it. And I said, how did you know? How did you know? She was like, well, your chi's blocked here. I remember thinking, my chi? What is my chi? Your energy. And she wound up putting the needles in me. I felt a sensation that I'd never felt before. I felt heat moving through my body. I felt a heaviness in my arm that it felt as if I couldn't lift my arm up, that if I would, that fire would move through it or something. It was really bizarre. But something amazing happened. I felt lighter and more at ease than I had felt in a really long time. And that began this deep inquiry within myself of, what is this? What are these needles doing? Not just the process of acupuncture, but what is this energy that's coursing through my body? And how did she know without me telling her that I had this issue? I was just blown away. I loved it. I was hooked immediately. I got to know more about this. But I'm going to tell you, because now, all these years later, I didn't just stop there. That was the doorway opening into my healing journey. That gave me the strength to make some changes. But when I tell you that it's been a lifelong journey where I've taken breaks, where sometimes I'm deeply involved in it, it wasn't just one modality that healed. And I'm not healed, right? Like, that healed me. I'm not going to even use that kind of context or language. We're always becoming more of who we're meant to be. But I've done so many different things over the years. But that was the very thing, the acupuncture, that helped me get relief from my migraines. What I didn't understand at the time was that there was a root, and that I was so overwhelmed in my life with living a life that wasn't congruent with who I really wanted to be. I look back now and I think that the acupuncture gave me the permission, once I felt a little lighter and my head didn't feel like I was like falling off and exploding with pain, I was able to make some new decisions. And I wound up leaving that relationship and starting over. Then I really got interested in doing that intuitive healing work that I mentioned in the first episode. And after hours, I would do readings, and on the weekends, and I started exploring. And if you know anything about astrology, I have 5 placements in Sagittarius, mostly in the 9th house, except for my sun in the 8th, which means I am an ultimate seeker, an explorer, and an adventurer. And so my life has been an adventure of trying to get to know me, asking the bigger questions, and trying different things to understand myself. And I love it. I have the deepest passion and respect for this sacred work of getting to know ourselves. So I can't say to you that my healing was this linear thing, right? Because, okay, I got rid of my migraines, but then years later, I was in a very challenging, emotionally abusive relationship and all other sorts of healing. So I started off with physical healing, and I was so lucky that I had a Dr. Gray, that I had that doctor that instead of just giving me a pill, was willing to offer other ways to heal. Not everybody's that lucky, right? Not everybody's that lucky. And so I have had different seasons of my life. And you'll get to know me a little bit more through these podcasts. But I've had seasons of my life where maybe it wasn't physical, it was emotional. I had a season just over a year ago over the summer where I was in so much physical pain in my back and my arm that I had to go get treatment. I had to do frequency stimulation modulation and all these different things because I once again found myself but this time, this is the difference. This time I had the support from a functional medicine doctor and I did other things. I went to the root. I worked with an energy healer. I was, okay, I got to meditate. I got to see where this is coming from. I grew in my own consciousness and my own awareness to realize this is not a one little area thing. This isn't just my back and my arm and the nerve stuff that was happening. This is multidimensional. This is happening on emotionally. There's some root to it. And I got into it and didn't stop until it went away because that's how deep the pain was. I couldn't sleep. It was insane. All that to say that healing isn't always linear or always some simple 1, 2, 3 step. I think it's a lifelong journey of getting to know ourselves and come into wholeness and to meet ourselves exactly where we're at with the capacity that we have currently in our life. If you want more in your life, if you want to get out of survival in your nervous system and get into thriving, you have to expand your nervous system. So insight alone wasn't going to be enough during those times. Efforting didn't necessarily equal relief. And I had to soften my expectations over the times because I'm sure just like you've had these experiences where you're like, oh, I'm going to heal. This is going to happen really quickly. It's not going to take a long time. And it doesn't always happen on the timeline that we think it's going to happen. What's been surprising to me about healing, especially in my own journey, is how much safety mattered. It's so incredibly important. Feeling safe in your body, feeling safe with a practitioner. Your nervous system is so important to this journey, your body. I didn't realize how much timing mattered. A lot of it was right place, right time. I was ready. I was done suffering. I didn't realize how much support mattered. I look back at all the different practitioners that have supported me in my journey, and I am so grateful. So grateful. So my personal definition of the younger version of me who started out with acupuncture and the version of me now who is doing the different things that I do, the definition of healing has evolved over time. And my story is not so much about the learning of what is healing. It was arriving to the idea of what healing really is. I want you to think of your journey that we're going to have together as you learning how to feel safer in your body, finding ways for your nervous system to settle. So if you find yourself sometimes in fight or flight, you really are, okay, I'm going to find new ways to work with this beautiful, infinitely intelligent nervous system of yours. I want you to see symptoms as signals from your body and your soul trying to get your attention all the freaking time. Every symptom I've ever had, even when I dislocated my shoulder when I was working out back in 2021, had an emotional root. It was so on point and literal, it almost blew my mind. And the healing of it, I had to heal the emotional part as well as go see my chiropractor and get some support with that. Symptoms are so important. They're there to get you back on track, even if they seem negative. I want you to know that your emotional resiliency is so important to this and that it will increase over time the more that you trust yourself, trust your body, trust the experiences. This is really about people trusting themselves again, knowing that you are infinitely capable of healing, that your body has this innate wisdom that will allow you to heal with the right circumstances. And I really want you to realize that life can feel so much more spacious, even if it's not perfect. This isn't about perfection. We're never going to get to a destination. I don't want you to think of this as a destination. That's why I shared with you about my healing journey, because I've had different things happen over the years. And no matter what's going on, I never blame myself. I don't even get mad. I just go, okay, this is what is. This is what my body is trying to work with me on. This is my next level of coming back into wholeness. So remember that healing doesn't always remove everything, but it can radically change how someone lives inside of their lives. So I want to share, when it comes to healing, doesn't mean that you're symptom-free always. So if you're dealing with cancer, you may be healing, but you may still have some symptoms. That's okay. Let's have some compassion. Healing doesn't mean being done. You're never going to reach a destination. And I don't want you to get addicted to healing. I want you to trust the healing process, that when something in your present day awareness is telling you that you need some support, that you go get it. But this isn't a constant like digging and trying to figure out what's wrong with me. Nothing is wrong with you. Seriously. And healing isn't about being constantly happy. I mean, come on, let's be real, guys. It can be challenging. And there's so much happening in the world. I would love for you to find peace and contentment inside of yourself. That's some goals, right? But healing can look like more choice, more capacity, faster recovery, less fear of what's happening, more self-trust, and greater ability to be present in this now moment. So once again, it's less about fixing and it's more about becoming whole. I just share all this because I don't ever want you to blame yourself if something is going on. I want you to be curious instead of feeling rigid and just feeling like you have to take the easiest path forward. Because maybe the easiest path forward for you is, I'm going to go get this surgery and I'm going to cut out my gallbladder. Well, maybe, hey, crazy idea. Maybe you start to figure out some other ways to heal. Maybe you use some herbs and work with a herbalist. Maybe you change your diet and work with a nutritionist. Maybe you do some energy work. Maybe you remove some of the stored emotions in your gallbladder. Maybe a different perspective, right? But it's not always about quick fixes. I want you to understand that it's okay to get help. That's the thing that has been the hardest for me, if I'm being honest. I'm one of those people, I can figure it out. Like, I'm a lone wolf sometimes. Not anymore, though. I've realized how wildly supportive it is to have community and to have help and the right practitioners. I want you to remember, as I close up today, that this podcast is going to be here to support you with those real healing stories, authentic, true stories that are going to show different paths, that can normalize some of the complexities of healing. And guests will be speaking honestly about what helped, what didn't. And there's no single right answer. These are all doorways and different paths for you to try. And if you haven't been to the site yet, I'd love for you to check it out. Leave your healing story about what modality worked for you. Maybe you have a practitioner that you want to refer or recommend. Maybe you want to share your healing story. Maybe you have a question you want to ask about healing. This is the place to go for the community around it. The biggest thing I hope I conveyed is that healing is a pathway forward to allowing you to be in the driver's seat of your life. Now, I'm not here to get all spiritual and woo on you, but I do believe in a higher power. And you will clearly see that in all the ways I share and talk. I really believe that we're not alone and that we have this infinite intelligence that's always supporting us, whether you want to call it God, divine, universe. But when you align with that, when you align with this aspect of you that's your consciousness, and you decide that you want your life to get better and that you're willing to heal and do the work that would support that, your world opens up in the most beautiful ways. I've seen it thousands of times. I have enough faith for you and me both that this works, that if you choose to walk this path, this healing forward to become the best version that you can be, I have faith of how it turns out because I've seen it. I've seen my clients and friends become more whole and enjoy their lives better and have relief and feel good and all the different things. Know that at any given stage of your life, no matter what age you are, healing is always possible. It doesn't have to be some fast, quick pace thing. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It gets to be exactly what you need it to be. If you're listening to this, something in you already knows that healing is possible, even if you don't know how yet. Even if you don't know how yet. And I encourage you just to get curious and have fun with it. And I will see you guys again soon. Thank you so much for tuning in today.